dicks that you can suck. All right, well, here we are, everybody.
Suck them.
Yeah, indeed. Look at you with the freed bee.
The bee is free.
You turning over a new leaf out here?
Yep, the bee is free, everybody. I'm turning over a new leaf.
I mean, are we serious about this?
Better than you
Yeah.
looking at hat.
I mean, I've been advocating for it for years, but is it finally here? The
It's
day is
finally here, I
among it. The year of our Lord, 2024.
Yep,
The bee is free.
I think it's time for the bee to be free. You know, I am no longer. I mean, look, I've been. Let's face it. I've been a boy for a long time. You know what I mean? I've been a boy, and I feel like now that I'm a published journalist, I'm a man, and it's time to just be. I feel like published journalists. This is what we do. We have slick head, and we have a scraggly, shitty beard, and we give opinions that nobody cares about. And so there you go.
Are you ready for the heightened scrutiny that comes with being a published bald?
Of course.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Then I got nothing to say. Hell yeah, dude.
Dude, if people read my writing and the thing they go after me for is my baldness, I'll genuinely be thrilled.
That's
it's
not
funny
because I
thought this maturity was like a latent result of fatherhood, you know?
A little bit.
No, it's just writing for a paper that's done it.
No,
I mean,
think
either way, it's for me. I think
it's a combination of both. Like, I have finally accepted, like, dude, who are you kidding? Like, who are you trying to be? Like, you're a dad, you're bald, like, just, you know, accept it. I mean, I love wearing hats, and obviously I'll still do it outside because y'all don't know this. Drew might because he shaved his head before, but, like, getting a sunburn on your bald head is hell on earth. So, like, I'll obviously still take care of that. But, like, you know, you've always told me, Trae, I've got a good shaped head. You know,
you do?
Why not? Why not just be a hitting bald?
You got the ideal shaped head. It's always like people that, I don't know, I guess it's confirmation bias, because I was going to say it's wild how often people that have male pattern baldness also have a head that hits while shaved. Yeah. But I guess that, like, maybe the ones who suffer from that but don't, they go a different route,
cover it up,
toupees or hats or something, because they know their head don't hit, so you only ever see the ones that do hit. But
also, you're talking about people that are in movies, so, like, of course. Yeah, by the way, I should go ahead and say and plug it. I was doing a bit, but I write for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution now, and my first column came out today. So you can go to ajc.com, go to the opinion section, and you can see it. And I liked it, and I got good responses from it. So,
congratulations. First of all, that's awesome. And your first paragraph was great, and then it was a paywall, and I had to go do something else. But I plan on
I'll send it
at
to
least
you.
signing up for a free trial to read it. Second of all, I want to say I had lunch scheduled with a friend twice, and we had to reschedule, who has a not hitting shape head, who I know was going bald, and I was genuinely hyped. He's not on social media. I was like, I wonder what this old boy did. Andy Haynes has a relatively viral joke about how he has a terrible head, was going bald, and then his wife, Rosebud, just paid for him to go get plugs.
Yeah,
just was like, her. You look awful. Fucking
that's,
go do that.
That's the equivalent of getting your girl titties. That's great.
Yeah, that was his bit. That was his bit. Was I would buy her titties, but her titties are perfect, or something like that. Maybe I just threw that in there on my own.
Rosebud's a baller.
I want to say I said published bald just to do a bit, but I'm kind of saying, and I kind of mean this. You walking around like that is going to have people treat you differently, not because of the Atlanta Constitutional. I really think you're going to be treated differently, positively, and then also expectations-wise, maybe differently. And I kind of want you to write a joke about it. I kind of want you to be like, I took my hat off, and certain men started respecting me, but also it sucked because I had to do this. And no one's ever been like, oh no, that lady fell. What do we do, sir?
Yeah. I've had one for a while that was, but before I slicked it, when I was like, I'm wearing a hat, so I don't care to just let it go a little bit, where it was like, I had the hat on and it's like, oh, look at him, I want to pinch his cheeks, he's adorable. And then I take my hat off and they're like, where were you on January 6th? And like, that's like been part of the scary reason of like going complete skinhead, because like that's so associated. Like, they took the bald head like the gays took the rainbow, except for one hits and the other doesn't.
For whites, that's definitely true for whites, which obviously that's, mostly who was there on January 6th, other than some interesting Latino people. But I just realized part of the reason I want you to do it is I had this joke that I think was too like esoteric about, but it's the same concept of like, I realized that I always have friends who are bigger than me. And I realized why one night when I was out with friends who weren't bigger than me, and someone in another group was like mouthing off to one of the women with us, and they looked at me like, what are we going to do? And I like turned to my right to find, my buddy Keith, and he wasn't there. And I was like, oh, we're going to take it. We're taking it. That's what we're doing. I thought Micah was here. He's not. So what's going to happen is that guy's right. Whatever he's, what he said was true. Women should not vote.
I'm with you, dude. I would never in a million years go to a bar around here without Robbie. Never. It would never happen. Granted,
actually, I'm bringing that bit back. That's a fire bit. I didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, that is funny. But no, I'm with you. Like, I definitely hope that people, because I always used to, I used to have a bit too that was like, if I'm your emergency contact, you're gonna die. Or like how horrible of a person are you if I'm your emergency contact or whatever. But like this like people are gonna start being like, you're more, we should put more responsibility on Corey. He can handle it.
Yeah, you got EC face.
Yeah, and that don't hit.
I mean, there's parts of it that do hit. Like, you'll find that suddenly men just like want you to stand with them while everybody else does shit.
That don't hit. I don't want to make friends that like the way I look.
They won't talk to you, dude.
Okay.
They'll just be like, yep.
I saw a meme the other day that is so true. It was like, the best thing about the Midwest is if you walk up and see a bunch of dudes talking in the garage, you can just join them. And that really hit for me, which is kind of true in the South too. But yeah, I've got more of that face now. I got a shed head.
You do have a shed head. Yeah, 100%.
You got a... Go ahead.
People can be asking you about, I mean, I guess people already did ask you about like, the forthcoming football season and stuff like that. But now it'll be about like, I don't know,
if
field
anybody's gonna
dressing
take a knee.
Things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Fly over state face.
Cop news.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But that's all right. You're used to it.
But hey, that means I can be more of a mole. You know what I mean? So that's not bad.
It's not like the hippest people in the world were talking the backwards hat version of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, then you were just like, hey, we're pretty sure that guy's got ketamine. Otherwise, we don't know why he's at this party,
Yeah, I mean, that's really a good point, because before I just looked like a frat bro conservative. You know what I mean? But now
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, but now I look like a QAnon one. But so maybe people will leave me alone.
Right. Yeah, you're scarier now. Trae, ironically, because he's known more for being the opposite of this, he's known more for, I don't know. You'll see what I'm getting when I finish it. Trae, ironically, is the only one who can just fit in with the queers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, until I open my mouth, anyway.
Sure.
But
you see that extra tooth.
Depends on how you open it, baby.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nah, that tooth, son.
Well,
yeah, you got to do something about that.
Speaking of that type of thing, not the tooth stuff, the stuff before that, I got a like weird minefield of a question I want to bring up to Drew specifically.
Oh, great. I was hoping it would be me.
Yeah, because I feel like ain't nobody really talk about this at the time, or if they did, it just kind of got forgotten by people, because I got reminded of this recently and I was like, what? That happened? So last year,
aliens,
renowned actor and sex pest, to say the least, Kevin Spacey, right, was acquitted on all of his charges. There were 9 of them, 9 charges in the UK in a trial over there, and he got acquitted on all charges last year.
Wait, he was in the UK?
Yeah.
Did he have 2 separate ones?
I mean, well, that's part of what I want to get into is like, I guess, I think criminal charge wise, I think that represented all of them, but I think he still got some civil case shit that has not yet been adjudicated or whatever. But that's part of, first of all, I should make it very clear, I don't know the details. I'm saying I didn't even realize that had happened. I heard that the other day and I was like, what? And I went and looked it up. And I guess he has been kind of attempting to get back out there. He did some like interview with Pierce Morgan where he like cried and shit, but he cried about he might lose his mansion in Baltimore or something. So, that didn't really hit for people.
He don't have $100.
Right. Yeah. Right. But, I just, obviously, Drew, you're a criminal defense attorney, a public defender. You were. And I just always find it interesting cases like this where it's like, I mean, O.J. Simpson got acquitted too. Do you know what I mean? But like, how to, how ought this be?
And the Hurricane spent 50 years in prison.
Right.
Right.
So like, from your perspective as a, defense attorney and all that, what, if anything, does this really mean? I mean, it's got to mean something, right? I mean, I'm sure it hits for him. It better than found guilty, but like, what is it?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with that information, if anything?
I mean, I think I can't answer it for anyone else, I guess. Do you mean, what does it mean for his case to re-enter the zeitgeist and get into movies? Do you mean, how do I personally feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of both. It's one of those things where it's like,
yeah. Well, if I'm his PR person, that's where I'm opening with. And I would say he was found innocent. That's not true.
right.
That's what I would say. Because it's like most people aren't quite savvy enough to pick up on that slight difference between not guilty and innocent. It's not slight in reality, but it's slight in terms of the zeitgeist. So I would lead with that. I think it could potentially. Here's why you can't do it, though. If that's not the only one, it's going to, the follow-up immediately is, okay, that was in the UK. What about that 14-year-old American you fucked in that Baltimore mansion you can't afford anymore?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, here's $100, Mr. Spacey. Why are you losing a mansion in Baltimore? But if that one blows over or changes in some way, yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. We have been in this country inundated with this notion that the criminal justice system works. Is in fact completely just black and white, did it or not did it, and that's the end of it. And if we make a mistake, we're going to podcast you till you get free. And if anyone listening doesn't know, I don't know what the UK's standard of evidence is exactly. I don't know if I can define it exactly properly, but we based ours off their common law. So I feel confident saying essentially to be found guilty in a criminal context, there's going to be language in there that you have to be found guilty beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt, which is a pretty high standard of evidence.
Right.
So on a personal level, what does it mean to me? It could mean anything. It could mean that witnesses died because this happened 12 years ago. It could mean that somebody saw his American case, made some shit up in the UK trying to get money. It could mean that he has great lawyers and somebody screwed the case up. It could mean that he did it, but the person he did it to is a twink meth head who's a terrible fucking witness, and someone ate him alive on the stand and made him look like a liar because they've lied a million times. Because, hey, guess what? Abused people often suck as witnesses.
Right. Yeah, because I see in like now I know murder shows ain't always accurate and stuff. Duh. But like even documentaries and stuff where it's like the lawyer, instead of being like, I'm going to give you the best defense ever because you didn't do it and I'm going to convince him you didn't do it. They're like, I guarantee you I can fuck around and get a mistrial on this one. You know what I mean? Like they go for that.
But he did not get a mistrial, right, Trae? He was found not guilty.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
It is wild to me that we didn't hear more about it. My guess is his PR team have decided it's not worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. I mean, to think of it this way. Let's say he was being sued here and he's in the middle of that civil case and then he gets found not guilty over there. If I'm his lawyer, I don't want the jury to know about that. You might think this is good. We're going to go tell the jury, look, he got found not guilty. But somebody on that jury panel might not have any clue he was accused over there.
Right.
And go, God damn, you mean they're accusing this motherfucker on every continent?
Right.
Ugh. So there's any number of reasons this didn't come out. I didn't know it. This is the first time hearing about it. Obviously, it's a huge victory for him. Whatever's going on with the American case, when it settles one way or the other, this will be good for him. Until it does, I think it's just a future win that you're hoping for.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's one of those weird things where it's like, I mean, again, like OJ got acquitted and that didn't really matter to nobody because the whole world watched that trial, though. This one's different in that way. But it's like when all this first came out, it couldn't have went worse for him, and there was all these flood of accusations. The way he handled it was like comically
no one
terrible.
Has ever handled anything worse.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like court of public opinion thing. And I guess as part of my question is like, okay, but he went to actual court And it's like, so, you know.
Well, he went to the court where they still wear wigs. I wouldn't call that
wigs,
actual court.
And that is true. Well, to me, that almost feels more courty.
More courty, yeah.
But,
how many times do you think the sentence was said, give Kevin Spacey's a poofta? Like a lot. That was said a lot over there.
So I don't know.
That trial because they already knew.
It's like, is there any kind of path to, when you go down that hard, is there like any, you know, coming back at all? And I guess it should depend on like the truth of the matter, but how is anybody really supposed to know the truth of the matter outside of things like this? I know, but let's be, I mean, objectively speaking, he hits real hard.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, but it ain't happened yet. Like, I don't, in the terms of acting, very few people on earth hit harder than he does.
Right. With directors, they let it go, but actors, it's their faces out there.
Well, even like, do you think if the Polanski shit happened in like the modern era, you think that would, you know what I mean? He just
Woody Allen's still making movies.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And I mean, like,
is he doing them from elsewhere? Is he still putting them out one a year and all that shit? Because it's like,
I mean, yeah, dude. And unless like one of the last ones that I saw was still like a Sony Pictures, like put it out. He might be doing them all independent now. I don't know, but like he's got some deal with Prime because like all his shit comes up on there. So like, but I guess what I'm saying is like, it would be easier to, I won't say forgive, but like with the director, you just don't think about it. It's like, oh, it's a movie, whatever. But with an actor, it's their face. You see them. It's completely different, you know?
Yeah, no, it looks like Woody Allen. I mean, he kept up his pace until like 2017. Then he had 2019, then 2020.
2017 was Cafe Society.
Wonder Wheel.
I didn't see that one.
Cafe Society was 2016. And then since 2020, he's had one movie, Coup de Chance, in 2023.
He may have just like fallen off, but I almost feel like the fact that you haven't heard about it means people either care too much about what he did to go see it, or he's so, you know, what he does is, you know, it's satirized a million times. He
also old as fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like he might just not be relevant anymore.
Right. I'm just saying, like, you know, his, like, some of his later work, I guess you can call it later, but, like, I think Midnight in Paris is his finest movie. That's me, you know, and so that was, like, 2012 or something. I was like, God damn, he's still got it. And then all the shit really resurfaced, and it's like nothing else is coming out. But, like, also, the difference between 75 and 85 is pretty stark, you know?
Right, yeah. I mean, 2012 was fucking 12 years ago or whatever.
Right.
I never was an aficionado. I mean, he's got so many goddamn movies. I also love Midnight in Paris. I saw that one. I feel like I saw a lot of his like biggest ones over the years, but I'm far from a Woody Allen expert. I know you like connected with it, but he always felt like one of those like, you know, he's obviously extremely New Yorky and like, and also
that
he just
means
feels like
Jew.
Right. Well, he's very Jewish, very coastal feel. Like I never,
he's
never really
elite.
felt like I connected much with Woody Allen as a general rule. Although I mean, I
connected
know
with his like anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that type of person. That's what I connected with, like that awkwardness or whatever. And like,
I've never said this before, but I really hate Woody Allen.
Yeah, that's fine. I think
like the way
you mean like you always did, or like you mean
dude, I can understand that.
What's he gonna do? I don't give a fuck.
Dude, I've heard
quit being a bitch, dog.
Dude, I've heard like big time hitters who I respect their opinion say basically the exact same thing that you did.
Not you, Drew, but people I respect.
No.
Said that too.
I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was like your opinion is very like it's fine to have that. Like you're not on the fringe or anything. Like, but he's very fucking divisive. Like you either are in or you're out. You know what I mean?
It's like before we had this word, it felt incel-y. In fact, I would say he's not in Midnight in Paris, is he?
No.
Mm-mm.
Maybe that's why. Like I hate Woody Allen as an actor. I can't stand his stupid.
Yeah, my favorite movie of his, he's not in. I mean, Owen Wilson is absolutely a stand-in for Woody Allen, but I like him playing a neurotic. I like him playing a neurotic person better than I like Woody Allen playing a neurotic person.
Well,
and also, I like Cafe Society, and Woody Allen's not in Cafe Society, so there you go.
Well, getting back, I guess, to Spacey, legally, Trae, it's a win because it's a win. I don't think it will help at all his other case because I can't imagine a reason that you as his defense lawyer would bring it into the other case. It just seems like, especially if it's civil, that it would be bad for you. And then PR, I can speculate on that. I'm no more qualified than you guys. You know, I think there's a double-edged sword here that we haven't brought up, which is that it's gay sex. The double-edged sword there is people are going to be like less cool with it. There's this thing like if he had fucked a 16-year-old woman,
Right.
there's a lot of dudes who'd be like, I mean, come on.
Oh,
What are
yeah.
we talking about
They
here?
don't like that he's the gay part.
But at the same time, they
Which
hear
is
that
weird
he's
because he thought that
accused-
was his get out of jail free card.
Mhm.
Well, the flip side is people hear that he screwed a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And if that boy's gay, if it's not like a
Right.
priest and a weird, like whatever,
Right.
if that boy was a partier who ran away from home and then ended up at a Hollywood party, there's also a lot of people who are like, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
You know, it's like it's either homophobia or that thing we have of like a 14-year-old boy screws his teacher. And we're like, so we all giving him a high five or what?
Right.
You know, I mean, there's a real hunger to like end cancel culture completely that just is allowing the strangest rewriting of history. Kevin Spacey hits hard enough. Let me say it this way. If he were straight, I think this would be huge for him because the right people who hate cancel culture and who want to march against it and protect themselves from doing some bullshit would have had him on Fox News immediately. But he's a big old homo and a liberal, or he used to be. So it's like, who's the audience who wants to forgive Kevin Spacey?
Right.
I don't think they're American. In France, I bet the motherfucker could have never stopped taking roles. If he speaks French,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guarantee you he could be in all their movies.
Well,
right
dude,
now.
Gerard Depardieu stayed doing all that shit, and he was
Right.
there. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
well, I mean
Like,
that's also that's where Polanski went too, and where he
Right.
been for 50 years. Yeah.
Right.
Well, France. I mean, you know how they be. It's just
That's how they be.
They be rapey.
yes, very rapey. Yeah, just part of the culture over there. Wine, cheese, rape. Vive la France,
Stank.
baby. Yeah, stank. Can't forget
We
stank.
stink and vive rape.
Of course, the stank.
We love you,
Uh,
France. We're kidding. We know you don't just stink and rape.
I do think everything Drew says
But
is
it
true. But I
does
also
stink when
think
you rape.
I also think that I really do think that a lot of how it all played out from him when it all went down to is definitely not helping anything. Like the way he handled it initially, but then also when he like came back on YouTube with those
Ass Frank Underwood.
crazy ass fucking videos he was making that could not have been creepier or more ill advised. Like I just feel like all that type of shit just kind of made people go like, okay, yeah, this motherfucker is some kind of deviant or whatever.
Yes,
and then,
dude.
And then no matter what happens in the court of law or anything, none of that's
Yeah.
going to go away for people. Like, you
Dude,
know what I mean? Like,
No, I'm with you. When he came, number one, when he comes out and is like, "It's okay, I'm gay." It's
Mhm.
like, what the fuck are you talking about? But then when he was like, "I'll tell you what's a good idea. I'm going to come out as Frank Underwood, my character from House of Cards, who was a horrible person,
right.
and I'm going to the worst, like
That's
literally
so
the
funny.
worst fucking person. But I'm gonna hit so hard at these analogies
Anthony
and stuff.
Hopkins comes out as Hannibal Lecter and is
Right.
like, God, listen, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same fucking thing. And I was like, only a guilty ass lunatic would fucking do that. Now, let me ask you both a question. He just, not long ago, he put out a semi-trailer to this, like, noir film that he's been working on that I don't know if he personally financed or whatever, but, like, it's independently made because I don't think any big studios are working with Kevin Spacey. And it looked wild as hell. And now I love noir. Now, here's the question. I don't want to support Kevin Spacey financially, but I'm very morbidly curious as to what this fucking movie is going to look like. Where can I see it and still remain a good person?
Well, that's up to you, dog. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta be also let's be honest with ourselves about who we are. I mean, I'd have to be a good person before I could remain one.
That's
But
right. That's right.
I think that's up to you. But if you're like concerned about it, wait like a month and see what other people say about it. It may just suck.
See if it's worth it.
Hey, you got me off the hook by blowing it, Kevin.
Yeah, right. That's true. But like, it looks so wild that I'm like, I know. First off, I know he'll hit in it. I have zero doubt that he'll hit in it because he's like never given a performance that sucked. But like, I'm just curious what an indie Kevin Spacey post all this movie looks like. You know what, man? I know. I'm gonna pirate it. There you go.
That's what a lot of people say. They say that's how you're feeling. Sail the high seas. That's a lot of the internet advice for. So yeah, that's good. Because I was about to bring up. I mean, because he's an actor. I mean, he'd be getting residuals, right? So even like so I'm saying, if you care about any of that, it also would apply to his entire oeuvre, right? And he's got
and I watched
banger.
I watched American Beauty a week ago.
I'm saying, like, yeah, right? Because I feel like the exact same logic applies, and I know that it don't hit, but it's going to be real hard for me to just never ever watch it. Old Kevin Spacey movie. I mean, I've already.
But you know who else gets residuals? The people that worked really hard on that movie that didn't rate.
100%.
That's why I feel so bad for Malcolm Jamal Warner and all those people who like relied on Cosby money. Like it is not fair to them, dude.
100%. That's also a very, very good point. So, yeah, I don't know, but I was about to say before, I didn't know about that movie you just brought up, The Noir, but I was going to say, like, you feel like, especially in the wake of the acquittal and whatever else, there will be people out there who like are trying to make a name for themselves. They got some script they're trying to get made independently, yada, yada, whatever. And they want to make some kind of splash. They're not currently in the system. And they'll think like, I bet we could get Spacey for this. Cause like, what else is he doing? And if we get that, there's going to be headlines about it and yada, yada. So I figured that type of thing was coming before long anyway. Right. So that checks out to me.
I wanted to make 2 points. They're a little controversial probably, or one of them is, but I think it's true. That whole thing when he came out and was like, but I'm gay. And then like a week later, it felt like a week later, he was like making those creepy fireside Frank Underwood chat things. I do think it's possible that him being in Hollywood and being in gay Hollywood for as long as he was, let me say this way, because I'm genuinely, in my opinion, not saying something that's homophobic. It's an insult to men, which just happens to be the only people who make up the gay community. They have Hollywood and then gay Hollywood specifically are two areas of culture that have very different views on sex than especially middle America, much less just like us.
Right.
So I could see him thinking like, no, you guys don't get it. I just went to a party and fucked the kid.
Right.
We all do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, before the internet, they did, and you didn't get caught.
I guarantee you there's a huge part of him that's like, really? Me? Just me?
Right.
Literally everybody was, that's what parties were in 92. Ask Brian Singer.
There should be some people paying for his house.
Rob Lowe?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, Rob Lowe, to be fair, and I'm not saying this makes it okay, was like 22, I think, when he had sex with that 16-year-old.
He might have even been younger than that.
But still, yeah, I there's a part of me that could, I don't want to say empathize, but could understand how, I guess that's what empathy is, someone who's been in that world being like, I just need to let people know, guys, it wasn't a big deal. We all do it.
Right, because that's how far removed they are from, when you've been at Kevin Spacey's level for as long as he has, like, you do not remember how, like, it's like that Chappelle's opening monologue on Saturday Night Live when he's like, sorry, I only got one seat left in this hot air balloon, motherfuckers. Like, he don't know how to talk to people anymore because Kevin Spacey's been at that level for so long that, like, he don't know what the real world be like.
Right, and I want to clarify what I'm saying. Like, I feel like in gay Hollywood, the appetite for sex is all male driven. There's no female balance to that. So it's like, a lot of fucking be going on.
Sure.
And then the fact that it's Hollywood, I think we all know and accept that every version of Hollywood is depraved inside the underbelly. I mean, it just is.
Yeah. Oh, it's a horrible business, and like one that I actively want to be in. I just have to like say to myself, like, well, every business at the top level is horrible or whatever. But like, yeah, man, dude, it's full of fucking egomaniac lunatics that like you read so many, I've read so many books about old Hollywood of these dudes that ended up rising to power as producers or whatever. And it's like, they they didn't give fuck one about movies. They wanted to be super powerful, and they chose this avenue to do it. You know what I mean? So it just attracts egomaniacs, and therefore when you've got a system of egomaniacs, and then everyone is competing to get a job from that egomaniac, you just all turn into fucking insane sycophants that turn into egomaniacs.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
Well, what a whole other thing, but it is related to this: egomaniacs, show business, all that stuff. We were talking about Woody Allen earlier, and I said I never really connected with him just because of the background and all that shit. It didn't really speak to me or nothing. I also recently saw this Hulu documentary that was about like shock jocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It got me thinking about how like
Davy and the Bud.
Drew. I know that. I think I know that Corey be having. He'd be versed in the history here, but like, were you a Howard Stern person, Drew? Were you exposed to him when you were a kid, Morgan County? Like, was he a big deal where you were
It was
at?
not a big deal. I was exposed to him a little bit. We had stolen bootleg satellite television,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
like many people in our area.
When he was
and
on
then
E.
just like flipping through the channels and then seeing his circus of a show. When I hit about sixth grade, I'd stop. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also
He had so many things that would become and still remain to this day my favorite things: titties, little people, comedians.
right. And that was where all the Girls Gone Wild commercials were too. Like they
Comedy Central had a lot
I'm about
of
to say
them.
I saw
They
those on
did.
Comedy Central late at
yeah,
night. That's
it was
where I
both,
seeing
but
it,
I'm
yeah.
saying like those are my two things. Howard Stern on E, right, and then Comedy Central late at night. You
'Cause-
know that you're getting two bangs for your buck.
Because I've heard Corey over the years, every now and then he'll reference some piece of like Howard Stern lore or something, and in the moment I'm always just like, okay, right on. But really, I didn't. And you know, my dad owned the video store. We had Private Parts, that his movie. Like, I was aware of him, but I feel like I had zero exposure. Like, my dad didn't really fuck with him or anything. And I know that show was on E, and we had E because we stole cable too, but I don't think I ever saw it. So like, I just did not. I didn't choose to not fuck with Howard Stern. I never had any real opportunity to fuck with Howard Stern during his heyday when I was at the right age for it. And it was during the 90s and all that shit. But I was watching this documentary that covered him heavily the other night, and I was thinking about how, like, it's just like a blind spot for me. It's just something I totally missed. But, you know, there's this big...
He's unreal, man.
Well, there's this big... Okay, I want you to go on, but there's this big... debate. And I don't know if controversy is the right word. The whole thing with him now...
Him or Imus?
Well, no, about how he like the way he came up versus how he be now and everything.
He's real kind or whatever.
He's right. He's like, and people get older, they change, whatnot.
Of
But
course.
he's real. You know, he's like super
Liberal and
very liberal, very woke, but also he's like kinder, sweeter, gentler. Howard. And there's a lot of people being
he
like,
was then too.
"This
It's just liberals
motherfucker."
used to be cool.
Bro, well, okay, he might have been like liberal or whatever, but that's part of what I'm saying. I was watching
Not a feminist.
watching this documentary, and again, I had no exposure to. I knew he was wild as hell. I knew it was titties in the studio and all that stuff. I knew all that vaguely, but like they went into this shit that he did where he would you were saying egomaniacs. He would like go after other like shock jocks of the time, like you know, like personally to like take them down, and like there's this dude in Chicago whose dad was dying of cancer, and Stern did this whole public thing like every day on the radio, like a death clock countdown to this guy's dad finally giving up the ghost. And then he had like a party when the dad died and like had an effigy of his corpse and desecrated it. And then another guy, he got his ex-wife to come in there and like sit on his lap, and then she later killed herself, and all just like crazy shit that I did not know about because I wasn't paying attention back then. And so I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just found it kind of wild. I mean, it is a pretty glaring juxtaposition, I guess.
The only modern comparison, in my opinion, and the fact that they're both Jewish is a coincidence, is Ari Shaffir.
Yeah.
Where all his
it's
friends...
like, hey, you're listening, though, aren't you?
Right. It's all shock. It's all like shock. I mean, he dosed Bert, which he apologized for. He made a Kobe joke the moment he died that went super viral on his own special. Another woman had been filming before him, and he just made the cameras pan to her and called her a fat bitch. Didn't know who this was. Like, these things that are very juvenile where you see a grown man doing it. And I think Howard deserves a lot of what he's getting, Trae. I think Jimmy Kimmel, to a certain extent, does too.
He gets a lot of the same thing.
People
You're
are
right.
allowed to change,
Right.
but when you start going after other people for being the way you used to be, which Ari,
Right.
as far as I know, by the way, has never done, but Ari has owned up to a lot of owned up to a lot of his immaturity. Talked about how he had a lot of problems. Speaks his mind on social issues now. I mean, Ari's a Jew who speaks up for Palestine all the time. Like, you can't paint him as a guy who has no heart. But one thing Ari hasn't done, in my opinion, is go after people who still act the way he used to.
Right.
I think it's fair. I mean, I think Howard Stern is really great at reading the moment. You can't get famous as him being the good guy.
No.
And then you can't get as famous as he did and be an underdog, dickhead, what do you want to call that? Shock jock, obviously, is what we used to call it. In today's modern world, I guess we call it edgelord. I don't feel sorry for him at all. I think he deserves every bit of it, and if he gets sad about it, he can go count his money.
Wait, what is he getting? Like a lot of heat? Right? Is there something going on? Right now?
Because I've watched this documentary, I'm aware it's been a conversation. I'm not saying it's like currently raging or anything. I just know it's a thing that people. And Drew's right. People have also. I've seen where people have said the same thing about Jimmy Kimmel too. It's just people being like, where does this guy get off being this way now today, considering what we all saw him do, back in the day or whatever else. And also, just real quick, I don't know if you know, but Ari and Howard Stern, they had a bit like they don't hit for each other at all. They have like
checks out.
They hated each other.
As far as Kimmel, I do want to give him some credit. He's addressed that on
right. And he was young,
other
dude.
podcasts where he's basically said, I was a comic doing comedy stuff. Now I'm the host of a major show. I do slightly different things. And he claims, and I don't know if this is true, I've never looked into it, I've never gone after a comic for doing a joke. I go after politicians or actors for being hypocrite, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm ashamed of shit that I did 6-7 years ago. You grow as a person. Like, I'm a better dude now, and I think I'm certain that whatever the line is now, it'll be different in 10 years, and we'll have to be like, oh wow, I didn't know we weren't supposed to do that or whatever the fuck. But I do have a problem when people look at something, and on both sides too, when it's us going after a Republican or whatever. It's like, well, 25 years ago when you were in college, you blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, dude, people grow up and don't have those same opinions anymore. So kind of miss me with that bullshit. But Howard, built his entire brand on that shit, and that, I do think he's grown as a person. But the way Howard went about it with the complete, and by the way, you're talking to someone who was a fan, the complete exploitation of women, and when he had Anna Nicole Smith on and wouldn't let her get a word in without calling her fat and blah 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 blah. That's who you are still. If you're a grown man and you're doing that, you can eventually realize you were wrong. Oh, maybe I should, but it's in you. It's in you. He didn't give a fuck. And he falls under the category of people that I just really don't care for, which is they go, any publicity is good publicity, or hey, he's just doing his job. He's just doing it to get views, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or I remember, it wasn't that documentary, but this was true. NBC, when he was working for NBC Radio, the people that wrote in that loved Howard, they would say, they'd have why do you love Howard? And it would say, or why do you listen to Howard Stern? And it says, because I have to know what he's going to say next. And all the people that hated Howard Stern but still listen, they go, why do you listen to the Howard Stern show? And they go, because I have to hear what he says next. It was the same reason for both. You know what I mean?
I don't respect that.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying hey, he wanted to get big doing that thing, and he sacrificed his morals for it or whatever. But you're right, with all that stuff that he would do, he had to be the number one in the market, and he didn't give a fuck how he went about doing it. Now, he did a lot of positive things to achieve those sorts of things. He was doing stuff on radio that is so commonplace now, but nobody did it back then. He would have a bunch of people in there doing what should be, it was a visual medium, but they were doing it on radio. And his argument would be they're they can't see it. And he's like, Right, but the energy in the room is good, which makes all the guests funnier and makes everything better. And like he was totally right with that. Like he'd have a woman come in there and ride a Sibian. Well, like the people can't see that, but they know it's happening.
now.
Yeah, we can now. Yeah, but the people in the room were reacting to it, and it was changing the mood and shit like that. And so he did a lot of groundbreaking stuff. And but another thing about Howard one thing about Howard that I disrespect is that like he constantly shits on podcasts and stuff. Like
that's why him and Ari that's the source of him and Ari Shaffir's beef.
And to me, I'm like Howard, you're really booming out here, brother. Like I'm sorry, but like look, you got into radio and like of course you think radio's the greatest thing ever. You're the only one with $100 million a year deal with Sirius. You know what I mean?
Doesn't he own part of Sirius too? I almost feel like his hatred is really just a business move to keep keep telling his fans don't go over there and listen to this free stuff, keep paying for ours, which I get, but it's like that's another thing I don't respect.
But just shut the fuck up. It was like when we had Roy Wood on our show right during COVID, and we were talking about Trae had brought up like all these people that can, they only consider me a YouTube comedian, and Roy was like, man, he's like, fuck all that shit. He's like, because what YouTube is now, it's just the new thing. He's like, radio people hated TV people and vaudeville people hated radio people, right? It's when there's a new thing and you got good at the thing before that and you're going to now have to change, which Howard don't have to change. He don't ever have to do anything the rest of his life. But like, I think in his brain, he's like, he don't like the fact that just anyone can do it or whatever. But it's like, by the way, if you have the #1 podcast, you're good at it. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's just that whole like, it's like what Roy was talking about. It's like, this is the new thing. And he's like, I'm not for the new thing, but just shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah. Did you watch it a lot back in the day? And or like, was your exposure to it just on E? Because that's the thing too. Is like,
I know, because my parents wouldn't let me listen to it.
But also, were Southern radio stations, carrying that show?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
That's what maybe in Atlanta there was one.
Yeah,
probably. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what I thought too. Is like, I feel like I know he was syndicated nationwide, but it couldn't have been much around the South. But maybe I'm just wrong. But I know it wasn't where I was at. But like, were you pretty into it? Because like I said, sometimes you'll bring up. You'll say shit from like old Stern that I didn't even know what you're talking about.
I
like
was
remember the people involved, like the cast members and stuff. That was another thing, by the way. It's like he reportedly he didn't take great care of a lot of his people. Like a lot of the people that made that were very popular on that show were like living in squalor the whole time they're on it, while he's making $20 million a year or whatever. And
I'm not
down with that either. Yeah,
I'm not gonna comment on that. Only because I'm really good friends. I'll be seeing him this weekend with Shuli Edgar, who used to be on the Howard Stern show, and I know that I don't know that that's true about Shuli. I do know that is true about some of the people that got. But it's like Stutter and John's also a dickhead, so maybe that one's on him. You know what I mean? Like Stutter and John fucking sucks. So like maybe Howard did like
okay. Honestly, see like that. Like why do you say that? See,
Stutter and John fucking sucks, dude. He fucking sucks. I'll tell you why personally. First off, he don't hit. Secondly, like Stutter and John, I remember one time he messaged me and I was just getting in a hotel. We were doing a show, right? And he messaged me on Twitter and he was like, hey, do you want to do my podcast? And I was like, oh, hell yeah, Stutter and John. He's like, okay, can you do it in 20 minutes? And I was like, well, no, I'm about to get ready to go to a show. And he's like, okay. And then like a week later, he messaged me, hey, yo, do you still want to do my podcast? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, can you do it in like 10, 15 minutes? And I was like, I also was like about to get on an airplane or something. And I was like, no, man, I can't. I'm about to get on an airplane. And he blocked me. He blocked me. Like you can't do, do you not know who I am? I'm Stuttering fucking John. And I told Shuli that story and Shuli was like, oh yeah, that's exactly him. He's like, his ego is insane. He's like, he was on Howard, got popular for a minute. Leno had him and he thinks he's the greatest thing ever. Shuli and them actually have a podcast called the Uncle Rico Show and I think they've done literally 400 episodes now. the entire podcast is just about how much Stuttering John sucks. They shit on him It's Shuley and several other rotating cast members that were on Howard Stern, and they take clips of Stuttering John's podcast and just shit all over him, and that's the whole fucking show, and they've got like a pretty big following.
Yeah, see, I didn't know anything about any of that. This is what I'm saying. But like, you know these people even.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're plugged in. But yeah,
just to
funny.
make a brief point, the world Howard created, which was circusy and very much for teenagers and like overgrown men who call in on sports radio instead of talk to their wives. Yeah, and then these are the people who did get elevated. It was literally a fucking Down syndrome guy who they made fun of, and then the Baba Booey, Artie, who rode the line.
Yeah.
I mean, even Norm. You see Norm on there sometimes going, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Like, he was an asshole. He had an asshole show full of assholes.
They were the skanks before the skanks, dude.
I honestly think Howard's a worse person than most of the things I know about the skanks.
Yeah.
I think Howard is like way more of an egomaniac.
He's definitely, dude. He's one of the biggest egomaniacs ever. Like, and he addressed it in that movie he did, but I think in a way that was just like, I don't know, so that he could say that he addressed it, and like, no, I know, and blah blah blah, but like, not really that he gave a fuck.
But another example of this that we're dealing with right now is Ellen. Ellen canceled her big tour because no one was buying tickets. She says because everyone tried to cancel her for being mean, and then she's like, "I'm not even that mean." There's like
Seems
a
like
part
she was pretty
of me,
goddamn mean.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, man, if you hit at a high level and you're not getting accused of like rape, what is bothering you so bad about the truth?
Right.
And maybe it's that with Howard, maybe it's that like, if that comes out, your brand's ruined. Right? Like Ellen's brand is that like she gives away money and
she danced and she was not, yeah.
I guess that's it. They want to remain in the spotlight and they can't if people know that they're like this. I don't know. I think I'm losing the thread a little bit. I'm not entirely sure what my point is. It's just like, I'm not surprised when I find out anyone famous is kind of a dick bag.
Of course not. It's that level. Like, dude, we've talked about this before, but like, you'll see, like, I don't know, hypothetically, well, let's just use Mark Wahlberg as an example or whatever for right now.
Great guy. Would have stopped 9/11.
Yeah, would have stopped 9/11, hero. But like, I'm only using him as his example because his like daily schedule, like he's made it pretty famous and it's out there where it's like he wakes up at 3:30, he takes a polar plunge, then at 4:30 he works out, 5:30 it's breakfast, he gets 18 holes of golf in every day, he does all this shit by 7 so that he can blah 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 do all yada yada yada. And the Rock, there's a similar thing too with Ellen. I'm sure she had this insane schedule to keep up with this and sponsors or whatever. And eventually I think only egomaniacs will do it, because if I'm looking at what it takes to be that type of person, I'm here to tell you, I do not have it in me and it will never happen. Not that I don't have a good work ethic, but like, you have to be so fuck everyone else in the world, my family, my friends, fuck them all. You know what I mean? And I think that's like, there's probably a rare exception. Like Bill Burr's at the height of comedy right now, and he seems like an all right dude, but like, he could still continue to hit further. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you get to the level where you're a goddamn institution, it's like you've had to step on some fucking necks. There's no fucking other way around it.
Yeah, I think. But I mean, I remember without saying the guy's name, Mark sent us a screenshot of a daily schedule for a guy he worked with who was like a pundit guy, like a sports pundit, not a political one. So like going on First Take and going on Sports Center, like that type of thing, to talk about whichever sport this guy did. I know, I'm just not saying. But and it was insane. And this dude's like a former pro athlete and does that all day. And that was the whole context of Mark sending it to us, was basically him just being like, I don't even want to hit. Like,
no, right, yeah.
Like, if this is what hitting it, because I mean, that guy who was like not overly famous with a huge like Wasn't a
But
Hall
that
of Famer. Didn't have a
Right.
big, like massive social media presence that I'm aware of or nothing. But it was gets up at 5 a.m. every day, and his entire day is regimented out until fucking 10 o'clock at night or whatever.
Well, the
He
thing
does
is,
that every day
you
of the
don't
week.
just start doing that though that's how you get to that status. So it's like we go, man, he does that, and he's not even like a main. Well, it's like because you got who knows one day whether he will be or not.
Well, I'm sure he was doing all that during his playing days. He's
Right.
getting up at 5 a.m. He's going to whatever ice bath, training room, whatnot, and then it's weight room, gym, film tape, yada yada, all that shit. It's the same type of thing. He's probably been doing that for 20 years.
Well, that's why this business
just
sucks, is
different
because
stuff.
you could all that stuff is like you look at it and you go, this is what it takes to get to a certain level, but then it's still all subjective, and you could do it all and it not work and it not
Right.
work out. You know what I mean? So like it becomes even less attractive then. Like if someone came up to you right now and they said, Trae, if you do the Mark Wahlberg schedule, you will achieve every single one of your dreams. That would make it a little bit easier to hop into. But when you realize that like this might not even work, and I'd like to see my child turn 13. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I bet there's all kinds of people out there in the days of hustle culture and grind set and all that. People that like assign themselves the Mark Wahlberg daily
They do.
routine. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
they do.
like, contrive one up out of thin air when they don't really have enough stuff to justify that.
Right.
But they make it to where they do, and just because they're trying to, I don't know.
Dude,
use
hustle
the
culture is
secret.
why we're going insane.
You guys know I agree with you completely. I think if you're gonna do anything remotely like that, try to focus on one thing, blow that up, and then launch yourself into the other stuff. But just to give, I guess, not some pushback, but like, I don't know, keep the conversation going in a different direction. Had our TV show that we sold gotten made, I do think during filming, our lives would have been pretty like that.
They would have been, yeah.
For
And
sure.
the justification would
I'm not
be,
saying there's anything wrong with it.
this dream is right here.
Yeah.
And so I think there's plenty of people in Hollywood who aren't monsters, who live that way. They either A, can't sustain it, or B, dwindle it down into this thing that they can wrap their head around and bring their kid to work or whatever. It gets back to what you were saying, Corey, of like, what's Howard Stern great at? I mean, he was a good interviewer. He broke
He is a
ground
great
on, like,
interviewer.
having porn
There's no
stars in
denying
there or
that.
whatever.
He's a great interviewer.
I don't want to take that from him, but like what set him apart from Imus or anyone else is this monstrosity aspect of his personality, in my opinion. Now, I'm saying among talented people. I'm not trying to take his talent away. I'm saying among talented people, what set him apart was a thing that I think it's fair for people to be like, now that he's changed and he's like doing this new thing because everyone got woke, where he's like, let's be kind of, I think it's totally fair for people to be like, I know you don't mean that.
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to I think he finally ventured out of his house, but like it was not until long ago he still wouldn't leave his house because of COVID. And it wasn't like at the height of COVID. I'm literally talking about within like this calendar year, and people were like shitting on him for it. And like I was all about it because I was like, Howard, just fucking, you know what I mean? Like, but he then made the point. He's like, you know how big my goddamn house is? Okay. I don't even have to leave. All right. We've got a coffee shop down at the fucking end of the pavilion. But like, no, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't, but when I listen, he's on 100 and 101 on Sirius. Most of the shit that I listen to of Howard is if I see that there's a guest that he, like if fucking Bruce Springsteen is the guest, I want to hear that interview, or I listen to like all the old classic bits or whatever. But that's, that's what I don't listen to Howard every day. And back in the day, again, you couldn't. Although my dad, it's funny, like he was like the opposite end of the coin of Rush Limbaugh. Like, because my dad used to say some of the same shit about Rush Limbaugh was like, he'd be like, sometimes he says some stuff that's fucking way far out there, but like, at least he'll say it. Like, you never know what he's going to say next. And like, at least he ain't afraid to blah, 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 blah. And like that type of personality, Howard Stern got it. Rush Limbaugh got it. Fucking Trump got it in spades. Alex Jones got it,
Yeah.
Tim Dillon.
Tim Dillon's got it. Tim's real funny about it, but
Tim claims he's just doing a parody of Alex Jones,
right?
Privately.
Yeah, I hear you. I do think that if you pretend to be something for so long, you become that. Me personally, but
I bet he can afford a fucking mansion in Baltimore.
Oh, dude, he 100% can. Yeah, 100% can. And I don't have it in me to be that. And look, I have a big ego. Like, I'm not going to act like I don't have a big ego, but I have no desire to be doing a live stream every single fucking day, talking for hours and, constantly being out there and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't, and maybe it's the kid, I don't know, but like, I don't have that in me to be that. Like, dude, Bert, like the way Bert be, like, and I know me and him have a lot in common, but like, I mean, just constantly fucking camera in face, all that shit. I don't have it in me. And good for him. He can also afford a mansion in Baltimore, several of them.
I think I could afford a mansion in Baltimore. I'm the poorest person we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I could probably do pretty all right in Baltimore.
Yeah, I do. Just like Drew was saying earlier, I think that I know that I would go along with it for a little while. It would definitely burn me out, and then maybe I would stop. But like he said, sometimes it does kind of happen to you. Like if our TV show had gotten made, I mean, I remember.
And it's just, I'll do one more thing.
October, I believe it might not have been literally the calendar month of October because it might have included the election and Bill Maher and all that too, which was the first week in November. But basically, there was a month-long period in 2016, starting in October when our book came out. And we had that serious morning show in New York and all the book things. And I was on Real Time. And I think I was pitching shit for Warner Brothers at the time. And all that was happening at the same time. And Katie and the boys came out here when I was in Burbank doing Warner Brothers shit for a little bit. So I did see them. But there was like a 30-day period where I was home one day right. in 30 days. And my life was kind of briefly like that. And look, it did not hit for me, but it kind of happened to me, and I definitely
you didn't have a secretary though.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you eventually you go, well, you have to do one. It all comes with just one more thing, one more thing, and then you're like, I'm going to do it,
But I do think if I got in a position where my life could or would be like that every day for like indefinitely, I would reach a point where I was like, I'm not fuck this.
Yeah, I've got a number. Unless you just hire more help. But that's also, all I can say.
But here's a huge difference. And there's two aspects of it. There's a willingness to bet on yourself, to put all that work in, not knowing if it'll work out, and tell the people in your life to fuck off, not knowing if it'll work out. Mm-hmm. And then also, it goes back to Katie. It's right. way easier to sell to like, for example, I'll just use her as an example in your life because that's what we're talking about. It's way easier to sell to Katie. I got to go to New York for this serious show that's going to be listened to by hundreds of thousands of people and pays me X amount of money. And I got to go to pitch to Warner Brothers where if it goes through, I'm going to make this amount of money.
Sure.
And I got to fly out to a show where I'm making this amount of money. Mm-hmm. So for the next 30 days, I'm sorry, you got to buck up because I also got to promote the book, which, as you know, made this amount of money. And she's going, right, we're a family. This is good for our family. Versus, baby, I won't be home till 3 for family time. Because I'm hitting these open mics, and then I'm going to go to this coffee shop and write,
Huge
and then
difference.
I'm going to hang out outside the studio and hope this guy that I know pops by. And it's like, you're on your own. And by the way, a lot of people in LA are on their own for that reason, and bless their hearts because so few of them are actually talented.
Oh, yeah, man. If I wasn't successful at what I did, Amber would no longer be supporting me like she said she would when we got together, and I wouldn't fucking blame her. You know what I mean? Like if because I am busy a lot, but like everything that I do generates money for our household. So it's like, well, of course, like go work or whatever. And I do work a lot, but like, I don't know, like the certain type of like whatever Jimmy Fallon had to do to get the job and whatever he's got to do, I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
say the right thing all the time, and
Speaking of how we won't do any more than we have to hit, then let's shut it down here. Y'all come see me this weekend in the Midwest: Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City. Not in that order though, and then San Antonio's next, and then on from there. Go to TraeCrowder.com. Check it out.
I have Raleigh, Asheville, Chattanooga, Atlanta, and one of the Saints in Florida. I don't remember which one. South of Jacksonville. You can go to my website and find out more about it. I also have a Don't Tell set coming out. I know most of our listeners don't know what that is, but it can be a big deal. If you want to help me out, I would really appreciate this. Go follow Don't Tell Comedy on YouTube and or Instagram right now. And in the next few weeks, when you see my mug on there, like it, comment on it, share it. Don't say something weird like, Drew told me to comment on it. Just say something weird like, LOL. And that's it. That's all you got to do. And it will help me a lot. Thank you.
This Thursday, August 22nd, I'm popping into the Comedy Catch to hop on a showcase, have fun with some friends. Other than that, I'm just writing articles over at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and doing my bonus stuff at welovecorey.com. Go over there and check it out. Thank you all for listening. Oh, listen to Putting on Airs and Gravy Baby and Weekly Skews. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew.